Hey, it's Kellen.
Tyson here.
Of course they are.
What comes first, diversifying or being diverse? Chicken or the egg?
This is Diversified Game.
A podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective with Kellen.
He may agree, he may oppose, and it's more than just race, it's about, ideas.
Tyson.
When you're going against the odds, you've got to be creative, you've got to innovate, you've got to stand out.
And AL.
Focus more on execution and application and less on excuses.
So, let the game begin.
Do you have to look for people to diversify, or do you lend your business culture to diversity?
Okay. All right. That's definitely an interesting one there. Kel, what do you think?
Well, I think it depends on, your company. I really think this is, there's no cookie cutter answer to this, because your company could start off as, let's just say, Lily White cookie, whatever company, it could be cookies even, and that, cookies, and that's what you know. But to sell cookies or to sell anything else, you then need to know people. To have a full-fledged, company, you need to be able to reach out to the masses. I know in what we do, a lot of times people think it's only PR to, Black influencers, Black companies, Black this and that, but it's really diverse, because when you think about medical and government, those are diverse populations you have to deal with. So I think everybody has, you have to start with what you know. So if you're all Black, you're all white, you're all Mexican, you start there. But as we can see, the Mexican bakery will be flooded by gringos of all shades and colors. So, it's when you get to a certain level where you then are able to hire and you're hiring more. Of course, you want to hire more people of diverse backgrounds so you can get a full understanding, especially if you're in the majority where you've had, this privilege of, being a, let's say, white male, and your whole company looks white. I hate to see certain companies that are so huge, from the CEO down, everybody is white, and then you look at, Rufus, the janitor, and he's in there, and that's, the only diverse, the cleanup guy. So, and diversity also comes in your mindset, because you could have white, Black, Filipino, this, that, but they all think the same way. And I think it's good to have that wild card in your company that no one knows why or how that person got hired, because they come, their hair is rainbow color, like you could say Tekashi 6ix9ine or Rainbow Dash, for My Little Pony reference, but that they really know their stuff in whatever it is. So diversity is mindset, because I kind of see, you can't put anybody in one box, but I don't see too many, and I'm saying this, I don't see too many, white firms or companies that they have, like, somebody that, oh, my best friend is Black or my wife is Black. You don't really see that too much. It's sometimes they're on one page, and, and it's a page that, at least being a Black person, like you haven't covered us yet, and you're big enough. Microsoft and Amazon, they have these problems. I'm just throwing out companies that are trying to fix these problems that, really could reach out to Diversified Game to talk to us and see where they're falling short. Because I'll say here in Seattle, diversity is a big thing. And that, meeting after meeting, week after week, it's talked about. But even the people that they hire to fix the problem, even if they get the blackest person's skin color, that person has no connection to the community. When it comes to the chicken or the egg, I think that, if you're already the chicken, you need to then fertilize the new eggs when it comes to diversity. Because diversity is one of those things that it has to sprout out of any successful company. And when it comes, you fertilize it, you make sure the nutrients are there, you're tending to it like a good, mother would. And
okay. So when it comes to that question, I think that it depends on when you started your company. I feel that if you started your company a long time ago, years ago, before the United States became a hotbed of what we currently have, this diversified era, I feel like then you have to now do the work of diversifying your company. Whereas if you're starting your company now in 2018, I feel as though you should come out of the gates lending yourself to diversity.
I have those thoughts. I'm literally having a brain fart right now, fellas.
All right, hey. No, I mean, nothing wrong with that. Maybe a thought pop into the head as we vet out the conversation. But yeah, so that's my general thought on it. And then Kel, what do you mean the fertilizing and all that stuff? Like, explain that for the people.
Okay. Yeah. So, when you have a company and you're growing it, the first thing with a company starts just an idea. And when you just have an idea and you're putting your own money into it, you don't have time to think about, when I hire my first 2 people or my first 10 people, or in some companies it's 100 people, and what that's going to look like. So, but when things start to grow and you start to, mature, and you say, I have a product for the masses, especially when you have a product for the masses, you have to, the chicken, you're already the chicken by then. And so the next thing you're worrying about are the eggs. And so you have to make sure those eggs, and I'll switch from fertilizer to just warming up. The mother chicken has to warm
the
up.
Incubation. Yeah.
Yes. And she has to sit on that egg for a certain amount of time, and she has to make sure she's healthy and that egg is healthy. And so, and if that egg turns white or if it turns brown, sometimes you have no control over that. But if you have multiple eggs and you are able to control that, you need to think, I need to have a voice for all communities, because I need to have a voice for the Hispanic community, just like I need to have a voice for the Black community, just like I need to have a voice for the different Asian populations. And all those communities have their own sprout, because they all speak a different language, whether it's tone, whether it's the dialect, in Spanish, some things, starting with, green, in Spain, it's different than it's in Mexico. And even with Portuguese in Brazil is going to be different than when it's in spoken in Angola. So, you have to have, if those are your targets. And so that part of the diversity, what is diversity and what do you want it to look like? What we're hearing now, if I can ramble, is
go.
Okay, if I can ramble,
you got the floor right now.
I got the floor. Cool. Is that we're seeing big companies that we all use, from the Microsofts to the Amazons. I know I'm on the phone with some Apple guys right now, you guys. I'm in studio with the Apple people. So, whether it's the Amazons, the big companies, the Ubers, the Lyfts that we're all using, shout out to Lyft, especially Uber, you need to change your interface. But using big companies like that, they need to speak to every community so they know how to deal PR wise, with those crises, especially how to speak to every community so you can, put the fire out. Because one thing in business, a crisis, if you get big enough, is going to come. And you have to be prepared for it. In peace, prepare for war, is what my grandmother said.
Right.
And even small business need to be ready for those small, crises that come through. And so, yeah, that's what I think about the diversity.
So this is my thought process, and you bring up crisis, right? I almost feel like it doesn't even matter if we have a crisis in this day and age, because like AL and I talked about something we call triggered marketing, right? And it's where you purposely upset a community for the sake of creating controversy, publicity, awareness, and then because of the mindsets of the accosted community. So it could be Black, gay, Latino, whatever the case is. Because of the mindset of wanting acceptance, what happens is brands get both sides of the coin. They get the people who are going to support them for maybe a racist, homophobic, xenophobic statement, and they're like, heck yeah, that's my company. And then all they have to do to win back the Black, gay, Latino communities in that regard is apologize. It's like, oops, our bad. And then they run a campaign, and the campaign is just, the next campaign just faces that community now. Look at Tommy Hilfiger. He did that how many years ago when the statement was made about how his clothes weren't made for Black people, and it was such like, and this is a long time ago, before this internet era, and it was an uproar, but we were still at the outlet buying Tommy, and because eventually he just kind of apologized, and it was like, oh, I didn't mean that to be offensive. And I feel like that same effect works today, where you have companies that make horribly racist statements or xenophobic statements, and they're still able to exist just because they're like, oh, my bad. And our communities want acceptance so much, we just forgive. So while I agree that diversity will prevent some of that, I also believe that a lot of companies may fight against it because they realize it can be a tool to build awareness quickly and effectively, and the cost of it is an apology.
Yeah, and let's clarify real quick about that Tommy Hilfiger rumor, because he didn't really say that. At best, he did not expect Black people to jump on it, and buy,
true.
like I was buying for $100 at like 13, 14 years old, but it really wasn't my money. So, so just in that, that a brand that big could have, when those rumors come about, because no one can ever show you a quote that he said when.
So I should say alleged. I'm sorry.
And that was supposedly like, I think on like Oprah or whatnot, but no one ever, you don't see that going viral where he
here for our
said
Diversified
that. But
Game
from what I can remember of that,
giveaway, the code word is hustle.
It was a different era, but
film now.
Well, it was on Oprah, allegedly, and I know he went on Oprah to clarify, but he didn't expect Black folk to buy it, and people, twist things the way they want to hear it. I bet, one of the other companies put that out there to hurt.
Wouldn't shock me. There have been dirtier tactics in business.
But fake news. It was fake news at the time.
Right. It's fake news, everybody. Don't listen.
Yeah. So, so if Tommy Hilfiger wants to send us all some clothes, they're more than welcome to reach out to Diversified Game. And, we can talk more about that and even have Tommy come on.
Right.
But because even
because Zendaya actually, or Zendaya, I always kind of mess that up a little bit, but she actually has a collection coming out with Tommy, and so I love her as an actress. I think she's an eloquent and intelligent, beautiful, Black woman, and she presents herself very well to the masses in society, and I always applaud her for that. And seeing that Tommy move, I was like, that's a power move right there. That is a power move with her nice Tommy collection coming out. So quick plug for her, and congratulations there. Since we were, touching on Tommy, I figured we'd touch on the diversified aspect of what Tommy's got in store with her.
Yeah.
Oh, true that. I can definitely chime in there. I think not too long following like the whole Oprah talk, the whole bit. I believe Quincy Jones' daughter was like the face of Tommy Hilfiger for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
She was like a lot of their print campaign stuff, and and it was like what's phenomenal about who she is and the impact that she's made is that following what people perceived what was said, like allegedly It's like the fact that she comes from a mixed race family. She kind of spoke to both of those communities, saying, "Hey, you know, not only is it for who we perhaps initially designed it for, but it's for everybody." You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Everybody who wants to pay those good, you know, high quality prices, premium prices, and Black folks we know love to pay that before sometimes we pay the student loan bill. So,
right.
You know, I'm just saying message. That's my message. I need my message.
He said, "I'm just saying message."
Yeah.
No, so I think that's kind of the direction of it. So I mean, like again, for me, summation for me, I believe it just depends on the era in which your company was founded. If you were founded in an era where it wasn't that thought process that diversity really mattered, and then you have work to diversify your company, and of course not force yourself to, but if it makes sense, and you have to really take a look inward. If it does make sense, don't necessarily say it doesn't make sense just because you don't want to do it, and don't say it makes sense just because you want to feel like you're riding the wave of what's current and what's relevant. You really have to dissect your business and figure out, does it make sense? Is it worth it? And what message you send by either doing it or not doing it. And if you're starting your business today, tomorrow, next week, earlier this year, there's no reason why, with all of the knowledge and internet memes that are out there, that you haven't grabbed onto them and said, hey, let's lend our company to diversity out of the gates, so that way it's not even a problem. We want to make sure that our company is an equal opportunity employer. We want to make sure that when we're doing our ads and the close-in, we do want to get models of different shapes, sizes, and colors, genders, or what have you. Like, we want to automatically include some of that stuff in our campaigns from the beginning, so that we don't have to go back and apologize, right? And then again, if you have a method where your campaign triggers people, then kind of be prepared and just be like, oh yeah, just say your apologies, do mind your 1, 2s, P's and Q's, and just be very aware and on top of that when stuff does eventually hit the fan.
Absolutely.
Real talk. Real talk. It's diversity. Just don't let it be something you say. Let it be something you do. And I'll say for Seattle, there's so many groups that have been formed, so many businesses have been formed, and I think it'll just be a wave from the West Coast to the East. I mean, the East Coast is, they're doing, you guys are doing similar and same things, but it's really that middle of America that people suffer, because if there's only one person in each department, when I got to Seattle, for like most of the tech companies will say, there's only one person that is of color, Black. Just throw it out there. And groups like HereSeattle.com were formed out of that. Like, there has to be more of us. And if there's only one in each place, and we're all going to college, everybody's getting degrees, why aren't more of us being hired? Are they trying to separate us? And then when you do see somebody who looks like you, at least I'll say this for Seattle, part of the Seattle freeze, they're almost scared to talk to you. But I think we've all met that Black person who's scared to talk to the other Black person because it's going to look awkward to some.
Right.
But to me, it's like the white guys and the white women never have that, hesitance.
That thought process. Yeah. Now, I will say, to quote Jay-Z, less is more, nigga, there's plenty of us. I just want to throw that out there. So how do we feel about that statement then, if we're looking at it from that perspective? Like, how do we feel about a statement like that from someone like a Jay-Z?
I mean, I don't take, rappers as my number one philosophers. I love to
but he's not just a rapper though. Like, he owns companies that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, he owns, and that was in reference to, owning a business and being at the top and, being in these high-powered meetings where he literally, like, in that statement, he's like, you know, nah, less is more. There's plenty of us up here. Like, we don't necessarily want you up here because it's more shine for me if I'm up here by myself because I look like I'm the only one that looks like me up here, so everyone pays attention. But like, is that a no-no? Was that just for the sake of that one song? Was it just because it rhymed and sounded cool, or how do you really think that minorities at that level of success, how do you think they feel about other minorities climbing up? Like, it seems like it's rejoiced, but then we oftentimes hear the opposite in song lyrics or in interviews where it's like, oh wow, we thought you would have liked that, but it sounds like you may not.
Well, if we take it to mean, that, because in that quote, or right before that, Jay-Z is king of like the double meanings, the double entendres, and so when he uses even that word, he might be saying that nigga mentality. He might be, he might
right.
be.
Oh, true. It could be of a certain type of a person that he's saying there's less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he may be putting it on that, and so you can read it so many ways. But I think when you see many of Black folk, and I'm gonna say for the boule, that that boule type, we know that they don't want to connect with, if you're not in Jack and Jill, if you're not in, the Prince Hall Freemasons, if you're not in certain groups, and you can't really benefit them monetarily. We know that sometimes there's that older fraction, they're usually 60 and above, that you have to have a suit on at this type of an event,
right?
And it's like,
right.
no, you don't. And I'm gonna prove you wrong by wearing my custom made African wear that look so much nicer than your suit. You're brainwashed. I love a good suit, but I wear what I feel comfortable in at that time.
Right.
You don't tell me what to wear.
Exactly.
Or anybody around me. We wear what we want, because if Mark Cuban comes in here in PJs, you're gonna be on his job. Talking about, hey, it's Mark Cuban, thinking you can get something, but we know.
Right. I've always liked the Mavericks. All of a sudden, you a Mavs fan out of nowhere.
Yeah, but also to go back even to that quote, it was I was gonna go say it was the before that, when the guy was telling him, saying, Hove, it ain't many of us. There's also a fraction of Black folk who think if they think you made it, they want you to carry their cross. And you have your own purpose, your own journey in life, and you can't carry everybody's cross. And because everybody nowadays are doing something. It's like everyone has a business, which is a beautiful thing. White, Black, Mexican, everybody has a business. But Jay-Z can't carry my cross. He's not the savior to say, okay, Jay-Z, if I just meet him, how back in the day, if you had a Jay-Z version, you were going to be on and popping. And if Jay-Z or somebody will co-sign for you, or if Oprah will, help you with your nonprofit, you'll be golden. But no, man, there's plenty of people that can help you. But more importantly, you got to want to help yourself. And so I think he also could have been talking to that fraction, saying, check this out. You got to get it, man. You can't just say, oh, there's none of us in position. There's plenty of us, because plenty of us are in position, and not everybody's in the boule. And even though some in the boule, some of them reach back in different, angles and fractions, because there's a TV deal going on right now. Dr. Perry, he's on CBS.
Okay.
His people are the most down to earth. It's like LeBron. He's hired who looks like him. But when you're at CBS, you know that CBS ain't us. So you got to fall in position. You got to play that game. So will Dr. Perry have everybody he's ever known from the hood on his show? Not unless CBS approves it. And we got to be able to be like, that's cool, because he's going to use his platform to do this, but he's reached back many a times. His whole life professionally has been dedicated to helping, especially young boys, but, you know, Black boys, but Black children in education. And he's put so many in college through his system. So that's what I think on that. I don't think a Jay-Z. Yeah. And even if he did mean, I'm the only one, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's motivation for you to get your hustle on even more if you took it like that.
Okay. All right. That's a fair assessment. I just figured, since you bring that up, because that line always stuck out to me, and I like the line personally. Like, I think it's a really like swagged out, braggadocious way to be like, man, I'm on my stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm on that stuff right now. You know, I'm hot. Don't touch me. You know, and I'm the cool cat in the room. You know, and I always feel like Jay-Z's the coolest cat in the room. Even when he's a dog, he's the coolest cat in the room. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just got that persona now. Yeah. So okay, cool. Hey, AL, what are your thoughts on that?
I think AL had to step out just for a second.
Okay.
And you know, he'll ping us when he if he's able to come back out. But you know that chicken or the egg, one way or the other, get yourself a diverse group. And I know Why Blue Matters has had, you know, people of all, you know, persuasion, sexual preferences, which to me, that's nobody's business, you know, and for I'll say it so you don't have to, because people don't need to throw out who is dating who in a company. Like when people do that, I'm like, okay, so especially with the LGBT thing, that, you know, that's not really a topic that I focus on, because that's not a community that, like, I know people, but it's not like, oh, my best friend and all that. But when people have the LGBT and they have to hang the rainbow flag in the office just to show that they're not homophobic, like that's the only way, I'd find it very offensive if you had a Marcus Garvey red, black, and green or the Black Lives Matter sign up just to show that, hey, we're not racist.
Right. Well, and so to reference part of the Why This, Why Now episode is I literally said there's an issue when the people are doing it to show that they're not this. Like, you know, and I think I used Donna was the name. I used like, oh, Donna invited Tyson, you know, because she's trying to show she's down with Black people. It's like the same thing when I see the rainbow flag, or I see, you know, the Black Lives Matter sign. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you have that so pronounced here, and it almost feels like you're just trying to show me that you're down, which in essence, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. Is that a form of tokenism? Are you trying to pander to me, or do you legitimately live and feel this way? And then also to touch on the LGBTQ side of it, I'm all about people enjoying their lifestyle and the way that they so choose. And I'll like clean it up a little bit, but like I tell people, like, who you sex doesn't make me, you know, get off, pretty much. So
yeah.
So why you have to let me know that you're sleeping with someone heterosexual, homosexual, in between sexual, whatever you may be? We don't really need to have that conversation. I'm here for the humanity of you. And sure, we may talk about relationships and things like that, like in passing, but if you put that flag up, or you try to push that image in front of someone's face so vehemently, and then get mad when they ask you questions about your sexuality, it's like, well, you opened up the can of worms. You get what I'm saying? Like, when you do that, to me, you're looking for the reaction. You're looking for that attention. You're looking for someone to ask you, oh, well, I see the rainbow flag. They don't know whether that's lesbian, gay, pansexual, asexual, whatever, queer, whichever it might be. They don't know what that flag stands for. So now they may feel inclined to walk over and be like, hey, you know, I see you have a flag. Like, do you just support, or, you know, do you have a sexual preference? And I had someone who I saw have it, and I was like, oh, you know, we're sitting having a conversation, and I'm like, oh, so I see that, like, so guy, girl, intersex, what is it? And they're like, oh, well, that's a little personal. And I'm like, but then you asked me about Black experience stuff. Like, what? How is that? How is that? My skin, I didn't put my skin on. That flag, you voluntarily put it to let me know. So how do we have a dialogue about it if you want to give the content that I can have a dialogue around, but then you want to be offended that I'm trying to have a dialogue with you?
Yeah, that's a touchy one, and that's one where, you know, when it comes to who's sleeping with who, even if you're heterosexual, I don't get into those conversations. Like, I don't say, and you know, that's somebody's main lady. Hey, and so what is she like? Like, wait, hold on, you suspect. Like, what are you really talking about? Why? You know, that's just not
what's your motive?
Yeah, that's not a conversation culturally we have. You know, and I know there are cultures who they talk about that. You know, I know white guys are more inclined to talk about their wives and this and that, but culturally, I mean, we don't do that. Even like the you know, the swingers don't even do that, man. You know, if you were there for the party, you were there, and if not,
you missed out on a fun night.
Yeah, like that's just a crazy conversation. So, because I always thought about when I would meet like the first transsexual or cross-dresser or whatever now, right? Because you don't know what someone is, and that's not a conversation I necessarily want to have with anyone who's in that, because whatever you're portraying or introduce yourself as is what you are. But because we're not going to be dating anyway, either way, since I'm old and married, you know, it's like I had a situation in the grocery store the other day where one of those, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a man who just liked to wear women's fingernails, and, you know, look like somewhat a woman, but at the end of the day, I just needed help from that person. So I'm going to treat you like a person, ask you a question like a person, and, you know, say thank you like a person, and keep it moving. You know,
humanity isn't attached to a perception, pretty much. Like, it's not. It's if you're a human, my perception of what you are or who you are is irrelevant to how I'm supposed to extend my courtesies to you. If I would say thank you to someone who did this for me, I don't care what you look like. I'm gonna say thank you. You know, I don't care who you sleep with. I'm gonna say thank you. You know, that's pretty much the gist of it, right? Like,
yeah. So get your. I think just, you know, getting the right people for the culture of the job, the community, the business is the most important thing, and making sure you know, you can get someone who thinks just like you, but they're going to give you the biggest problem, especially if you have to be in office with them. You know, they may give the biggest problem because there may be something on the other side that you don't see in an interview or whatnot, which is why I love what we do, because we're able to hire as needed and create entrepreneurs instead of employees. Like, I don't want to create employees. I want to create entrepreneurs and then work with people, you know, as needed. And when, you know, when they want a vacation, vacation, and when I don't want to be bothered necessarily, it's all good, and we're all doing our thing.
Right. All right. Fair enough.
So I think this is a good place to stop our dialogue for this episode and allow you, the listeners, to join the conversation and keep the dialogue going with us online.
You can do so by visiting our social media at Facebook, Diversified Game Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter, Game Diversified, online, diversifiedgame.com. In your life, with the people around you, and or join our Patreon and get some nice perks for being involved.
If you found a nugget and are like today's episode, you might as well leave a review. And if you leave a review, you might as well share it. If you share it, you might as well subscribe. And as always, thanks for your support.
Thanks for getting in the game and listening to the Diversified Game podcast with Kellen, Tyson, and AL. The #1 show pairing entrepreneurship with diverse and inclusive perspectives like wine and cheese, bagel and lox, fish and grits. Be sure to visit diversifiedgame.com for all the good stuff. Join in the conversation and discover more content.